Hello everybody, welcome to this week's Onboard story. I've been wanting to post this for a while, but I had to wait quite a few weeks because we were racing at this exact track in the Nations Cup, and the race that I'm showing you now was preparation for that event. So I couldn't post anything because there was a lot of stuff that we learned on this particular weekend which I didn't want to share online until the Nations Cup event was over. So we're in Vallelunga, Italian GT, wonderful appearance. I've actually raced in this series before in 2015 when I made my proper debut in GT racing, and I knew this track fairly well from back then because we used to do quite a lot of testing, and I was looking forward to coming back and race in the series, which at this particular weekend had quite a lot of spectators because on track was the famous Formula 1 driver Jacques Villeneuve and his teammate Giancarlo Fisichella. So they were in another Ferrari number 27, and I had the pleasure of out-qualifying Villeneuve the day before when I got pole position for my first overall pole position since last year in Spa GT Open. So yes, I managed that pole in Blancpain Pro-Am, but this was it was quite nice to be in a strong position for this weekend's race and show some decent pace, especially because the last two weekends I had pretty tough results in the Blancpain GT. Anyway, I got stuck in my middle stint when I was driving behind a grey Audi driven by one of the Blancpain GT drivers who was also preparing for the Nations Cup, and we sort of cut straight into it where it's really easy to defend on this track and it's really difficult to overtake because the lines, the braking zones, etc. blend into each other. So this is my first time catching him after coming out the pits and doing I think 6 or 7 laps on my own, just hunting him down and getting as close as I could to him. And now I kind of, to be honest with you, when I arrived there I kind of took it for granted that I'd overtake him relatively quickly, but I wasn't expecting him to be to defend so well. So heading here into what is turn 2, flat in qualifying, tiny lift in the race because you don't want to understeer wide into the gravel there, and I saw that a few times. Then braking really hard for this double right. He makes his first mistake with the second lap that I was behind him, and my idea here was to try and go around the outside for the hairpin, but he had me covered. I'm not sure if he had done some planning before the race and analyzed all the corners, but all the defending that he was doing was pretty much textbook stuff, and I just could not find a way through at this point. So again, he defends the inside really well. You brake deep into this corner, which really helps with defensive driving. This opportunity here, this left hand, it was probably the only move that I was going to get throughout the stint if I wanted to get past him, but I would have to be quite deliberate, get a really good run out of that long hairpin and be alongside him before the braking zone, because it's pretty easy for him to just turn in and say, well look, I didn't see that he was coming. Also keep in mind that the priority of this event was for us to learn as much as we could for the Nations Cup, which I'll explain in a second. So I didn't want to go in here and try to be a hero. I needed to consolidate our position as much as I could, do whatever we could to catch the overall leaders, and pretty much bring the car back in one piece to Denis Bulatov, who was going to drive third. Rinat Salikov drove first, did a pretty decent opening stint, and then I was in the middle and Denis was at the end. So here, getting nice slipstream. I actually lifted off, I think, a little bit to try and get the run on the Audi heading into turns 3 and 4, but I misjudged it slightly, so I get down into the slipstream, brake to try to go towards the outside, but the Porsche was still very much on my inside. And then going through here, I misjudged how close the curb was, clipped it with my front right wheel, and then got sent to the shadow realm around the outside through the gravel and lost some time there. But because we had so much superior pace compared to Charles Wiertz here, who races for WRT Audi in the Blancpain, I was able to catch him almost within a lap or so. Again, getting a really nice slipstream through the really exciting turn 2, and then he gets blocked by this, I think that's a Ginetta, yes? He gets blocked by the Ginetta, and I get another decent run. My plan was to then use the Ginetta slipstream, but we caught him so quickly that I had to tuck in right behind the Audi, which sort of cost me a little bit of slipstream momentum around the outside. But now is my first real chance to get a move done. Try around the outside, but again, he has me covered. He pushes me offline, as I would probably do to him, and then I get sent wide onto the dirty stuff. So once again, he had me covered, and now I have to try and recatch the slipstream and think of another move. So because this is a 3-hour race of mixed class cars, so we had GT3s and GT4s, you had to sort of use the opportunity when you were lapping cars to get a run on your competitor ahead and try and outsmart him. But Charles had me covered in this regard, because he was able to run defensive lines and overslow the car at the apex, which killed any momentum that I could try and gather up on the exit to do an under or overcut. But my hope was, throughout the stint, I would eventually find a way through. I had half an hour. Well, my stint length was 1 hour, and the first 30 minutes I was on my own just hunting him down. And so it was the final 30 minutes of our stints where I was trying to overtake him, and I was hoping that something on his car would hopefully go wrong. So, tire wear, or maybe a lapse in concentration, something like that. So now we approach Maserati. This guy was actually very aware of the traffic around him, so he was very helpful. I didn't quite get the run that I wanted to, or hope to get through a mistake of some kind. And once again, getting as close as I can, heading down into this hairpin section, which is the final sector of the lap. And really, because of the tight nature of these corners, to overtake here, you'd have to pretty much knock the guy out of line. And interestingly, Fisichella attempted that, and he did get past someone, but in the process he caused a puncture for that other driver and got a drive-through penalty because of it. Again, my aim here was not to be a hero, and I had to measure the kind of risk that I was willing to take in order to get past him as much as possible. So it wasn't easy, but I had a strong rule in my mind that unless the move was clear, I wasn't going to do it. And until then, I was going to wait for a mistake. So, trying to get past now, that Lamborghini definitely slowed us both down. I was hoping to get a run here into turn 3. But again, he had me covered. I moved to the outside, and he gives me absolute minimum space, and I didn't get it done. So then we jump forward another lap. Again, I'm trying as much as I can to just force him into some kind of error around the track, and he's just not falling for any of my moves, which, by the way, I practice mostly on Gran Turismo, and most of the time they do actually work. But when you're racing against a guy like this who's been racing sort of the whole year at the top level in Blancpain, he's going to have you covered in certain ways. I mean, his co-drivers are the best Audi factory drivers in the business, so I'm sure he's learned quite a fair amount in the last few years racing at a top level. To be honest with you, I don't know his history, but I know that he competed in the Nations Cup in Bahrain last year, was very quick, and then made his debut in the Blancpain this year, and I think he won 1 or 2 of the sprint races. I get a small run here thinking about the inside line, but he has me covered. And here where he's quite smart is he overslows at the apex, so I can't get a cutback. I can't use the superior traction that I have. Our car definitely, the setup that Rinaldi did, we were really good on tire management, but we were also really fast overall in terms of single lap pace. We had a really quick car. There was not a coincidence that we managed pole position in the qualifying events the day before. Getting another slipstream here, to be honest with you, I can't quite remember what happened, so we're just going to have to see it unfold. Heading down into turn 2, this corner, if you get it wrong, there's a little bit of snap oversteer, so I had to do a big lift, lost a lot of time, and have to make all that time up again. So this lap is almost a write-off in terms of trying to get past. At the same time, the team is getting a little bit concerned, but it's also getting closer to the end of the stint. So the last thing you want to do is make a mistake with 15 minutes left in your stint and you don't even get back to the pits, or you lose so much time that the overtaking maneuver itself was a waste of time. So you have to always measure that when you're doing any kind of racing which is longer than 10 minutes. If there's no rush to get past, you have to consider all the variables, such as how much time is left in your stint, how much you can gain from overtaking the person. If you're only going to gain half a second a lap for 3 laps before pit stop, then it's better to not risk any damage on the car up until that point and sort of stay behind. Yes, I still apply the pressure, but overall lose as little time as possible in your stints. Got to run around the outside, try to square it off. Again, he overslowed at the apex masterfully, well judged as well, because sometimes you can overslow too much and the driver behind you can either just literally drive around you or get such a steep undercut that you don't have the time to react because you're going too slowly. Final corner is really cool around here. It's completely blind. You have to get on the power long before the exit, and then you exit where there's gravel, just as it should be. I know that there are small sections of this track which have been modernized with asphalt runoff, but a corner like this one, for example, if you make a mistake, you are going to be cutting grass, and it's not ideal. He makes a small mistake there. I dummy to the inside. Again, he has me covered. He brakes in the middle of the track. The track is not wide enough to fit 900 cars, in track width, so you have to be sure that if you are going to make the move, you have to be as close as you can to them and send as good a dummy as you can around the outside, and then dive towards the inside to get the move done. When I raced here in GT Cup in 2015, I was racing against two Porsches. They suffered under braking, and my car, which was a Lamborghini at the time, was really good under braking, so I was able to dive around the outside of that hairpin that we just did now, and I was hoping to replicate that move on Charles, but it wasn't working. Okay, back into sector 3, going to go around the outside and try and get a run by braking a little bit deeper and squaring off the line as much as I can to get superior traction, and then go around the outside of the next turn here. This is the closest I've been in sector 3 to actually doing an overtake. I go around the outside, but he's having none of it. He touches me, then pushes me wide, completely off the track, protecting his line. And by now I'm thinking, okay, I've tried a move at almost every corner. It's almost time to consolidate and just bring the car back into the pits. But then this Ferrari on the outside goes really wide, trying to let us through, and I thought he was going to spin into me, and the last thing I needed was more contact. So I made a small mistake there, getting a little bit of snap oversteer, trying to anticipate the guy hitting me. Luckily that didn't happen, and then eventually I saw the TV coverage. He was actually quite far away, but I just didn't want to take any risks. So we lose time again to the Audi, have to make it all up, but you can see that we had a lot of superior pace, but around this track it was just so difficult to overtake. We're now approaching the final phase of our stint here, and I'll just give you a quick rundown of the results. So what happened is a car went off and created a safety car period, which brought both the Audi and myself right up to the leaders. We then pitted, and the guys ahead of us jumped the red light at the end of the pit lane. I don't know if they were unsighted or something, but the point of the red light is when you're at the end of the pit lane and there's a safety car, you have to wait for the safety car to pass before you can exit the pits, and for some reason they chose not to respect that rule. We luckily did respect that rule, and in the third stint Dennis made some moves to move up the field, and in the end we eventually finished third overall and first in class. On the road we finished third in class and fifth overall, but the guys ahead of us gained over 20 seconds when they jumped the red light during the safety car period, and they obviously had to be penalized for that. So they each got 25-second drive-through penalties, which were applied after the race, which gave us our rightful position at the top of the podium in Pro-Am and third overall in the race. We're going to end here with pretty scary moment going into turn 2. Saw a small little dust cloud in the corner of my eye, headed through here, and then I saw the Audi brake at the last minute. I then had to brake myself, got massive snap oversteer. We go through the dust, and I think to myself, go, try and overtake him now. But what you guys can't see, but what I could see on the right hand side was double waved yellows, which meant absolutely no overtaking. I had to lift again and then try to square him off in the green flag corner, but he again overslowed the car at the apex and blocked me from doing any maneuvers there. In the end it was all futile, because around this moment here we start to get notification of the safety car. That slowed us all down, and we sort of obliged and formed up behind the safety car, headed into the pits, did a really quick pit stop and gained some positions, and in the end, because we paid attention to the rules, we managed to get our first win as a group, me, Dennis and Renat, of the year. And yeah, it was a pretty awesome feeling and really satisfied with that result. I hope you enjoyed this onboard story. Sorry to release it so late, but got to respect, some of the facts that we used this race as preparation for the Nations Cup, so I couldn't show anything that we'd learnt in this event before that. Thank you very much to my patrons, and if any of you want to buy some swag, you can head over to shop.davidperel.net, t-shirts, caps and things like that. Thank you also to my channel sponsor Thrustmaster. Until next time, I'll catch you around the next lap. Cheers.